My name is Devon Still, and when is now means now is when. Now is when you should go out there and do whatever is on your heart, to create change, to leave an impact, because tomorrow is not promised. I used to tell myself that all the time when my daughter was battling cancer. If tomorrow wasn't promised, what would we do with today? And we made sure that we lived that out every single day. It's something that you should do in your life as well. So whatever it is that's on your mind, that's on your heart, when is now? Now is when.
Hi, everyone. It's Capella. Welcome to the When Is Now podcast. Thank you to new listeners and returning listeners. I'm super excited you can join us. Today, our guest is Devon Still. You might know him from the Cincinnati Bengals. He played for the NFL for quite a while, or you might know him from his very public battle against cancer with his young daughter. I got to know Devon as a classmate at the University of Pennsylvania in a Master of Applied Positive Psychology program. We were MAP 17, cohort 17, and we refer to ourselves as MAPsters. Today, Devon is an author, he's a speaker, a workshop leader. He's actually a podcast host himself. He and his lovely wife have one of the top marriage podcasts out right now. It's called Real Relationships, REAL Relationships. You should definitely give it a listen after our conversation here. Nothing is off limits. They talk about infidelity. They talk about finances, family, in-laws. And I'm sure they would welcome any topics that you would like them to talk about. Let me tell you something else about Devon that you probably don't know. He was a star pupil in our cohort and actually the catalyst behind this podcast. We were at a alum summit this summer, and I told him something that I wanted to discuss. And he basically said, that sounds like a podcast. When are you going to do it? And so here we are. In this conversation, we talk about gratitude, resilience, and subjective well-being. I am grateful to have him here. I'm grateful to have you here. So let's get into it. Hello, everyone. This is Capella and the When Is Now podcast. And today we have Devon Still. Devon, how are you?
I'm doing good. Appreciate you for having me.
No, I appreciate you. All right. So I have a lot of personal stories I could tell about you, starting with the fact that when I said I wanted to actually, that's not how it happened. It happened when I said to you at the alumni summit that I had a question that was burning, right? We were sitting next to each other, right. And I said, I have a question that's burning. And you're like, all right, when are we going to get on and talk about it? And I was like, well, and then we had talked about the podcast and you were like, well, do it now. And then I'm like, well, when is now? Okay. Yeah, this is all working out. So a lot of the reason why we're here today, everyone, is because of Devon. So thank you, Devon.
Oh, no. Sometimes we just need that person to put that battery in our back when we have a good idea. And I know from the moment you told me about this podcast that it will have a huge impact. So I'm glad you got it off the ground.
Thank you. So Devon, I think most people know you, whatever. Like people say, who's going to be your guest on your podcast? I say, well, I have and I have Devon Still, and they'll be like, Devon Still from the NFL. And I was like, yeah, and a lot of people know you, and a lot of people know your daughter, and your fight with your daughter was a very public situation. And I want to talk about that, but I want to say I know you because you're my cohort brother from the University of Pennsylvania's MAP program, right?
Right. Yep.
And I didn't even know that you were a superstar when we, because it's all leveled out. Like we had MDs in that program, but in that program, it breaks everyone down to the very last compound.
Oh yeah, it does. There was some heavy hitters in that program. And I think that anytime you're able to put yourself in an environment of people who are high achievers and understand the impact that they want to have in this world, it forces you to grow. And that's why I was glad to be a part of that program.
We had a thing, you were always like a real, I would say like the glue or the magnet in the class, right? And we always there was this unwritten law that whenever Devon spoke, don't speak after him, because like everything you said, it was like so thoughtful. It was practical. It was academic. It was, just overall, it was thoughtful, and it was hard to follow you. And then on the last day of class, we all had to sort of reveal different things. And do you remember what you revealed?
Yeah. I talked about how a lot of times when I would, want to take my microphone off mute to share what I was thinking, my heart would just start racing. And I can tell like my breathing was a little bit off. And I questioned whether I should, speak up and add my insights to the conversation. But I always forced myself to do it because I just felt like that all of us in there, we had a voice, um, and we had a purpose, and we have a mission. And I can't allow my fear of judgment to stop me from, chasing after my dreams or chasing after my goals. And for me, if I was able to do that in front of y'all, if I was able to talk about positive psychology in front of, my cohort and the instructors, then I can go out in the world and talk about it, because I'm going to be judged the most in that classroom, in that environment, because everybody knows what positive psychology is, right? So if I'm able to pass the test in that environment, then I'm able to go out here in the world and do the same and actually have the impact that I wanted to have.
And before this, When Is Now was always a chapter in my book. So it's always a saying that's in my head, but it wasn't a podcast last year, right? But
Yeah.
you always epitomize that for me, because when we would learn something in class, I would go on Instagram that Monday or that
Yeah.
Tuesday, and you were preaching it. I mean, you were
Yeah.
preaching it with the utmost confidence, um, and saying all the right things. And even if you didn't say the right things, it didn't matter. Your message was on point. And I used to admire that so much, because I thought, well, when I graduate, then I will be then. And I was like, that's the exact point of When Is Now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because for me, I've been through a lot of stuff in my life, right? I had to overcome a lot of struggles. I know what resilience is. So it's not like I went to this program in order to learn the foundations of what resilience is and what well-being and flourishing is. It was just to fine tune my craft. And there would be times where we would be in class and we would talk about things. We would talk about growth mindset. We would talk about resilience. And it would just relate to my life so much that I was able to take the practical and the theoretical and make them work in concert to deliver a message on social media. So what I feel like this program did for me is it helped me to understand the science of it, because I already knew how to operate in this world with resilience, with growth mindset, with those character strengths. But it allowed me to, I tell people all the time, if my goal is to travel around the world and speaking and uplifting people and helping them overcome adversity, you have to be able to speak different languages. So I have to be able to go into an environment that is not academic and be able to communicate some pretty tough concepts in a way in which they understand. Or if I'm in an academic environment, I have to be able to speak to them in the language in which they understand. The more languages you're able to speak, the more impact you're able to have.
Honestly, Devin, like listening to you and having a conversation with you is food to my soul. I'm not lying. Like, it just takes me back to last year. It takes me back to these conversations, these enriching exchanges and ideas that, yeah, this is good for me. I, when you say speak the language, that resonates with me, because so I'm from Detroit.
Yeah.
My father's an activist. And to be quite honest, he is not buying into positive psychology. Mm-hmm. He thinks it's a privileged field at a privileged university. And if you cannot think about happiness, that's where he always goes to. It's much more than happiness, but you can't think about happiness if you're trying to figure out how to pay your bills, how to put food on the table, how to keep shelter, where's your health care, where's your education, where's your security coming from. Mm-hmm. Right?
No, I agree.
And so I want you, I mean, that's part of like your language. Tell me, like, what would you say to my father What do you say to communities that say, yes, optimism is good, but, right now I'm just sort of trying to keep my job?
Or even like speaking to your dad as far as being an activist, like there has to be a lot of optimism in activism because you're trying to fight for a change and you don't currently see what you're fighting for. So you have to have the belief, number one, the self-efficacy that you actually have the ability to change what you're trying to change. And you have to believe that it can actually happen. Or else there's no point of activism. Activism is taking action off of belief or the hope that you can create a better future than what your present is presently giving you. So I think your dad is the optimum of positive psychology. I think a lot of times people get caught up in the positive part of it and it thinks that it's just a Pollyanna or just being happy all the time. But it's really about trying to discover and identify the strengths within individuals and communities that they can use in order to propel them forward. So for me, no, my life wasn't always positive, but there's always positive in the negative if you choose to attend to that. There's a lot of negative things that I had to endure growing up. The environment that I was in was negative. When my daughter was battling cancer, it was a negative time in my life, but I've learned that there's always positive in the negative if you decide to attend to that. A lot of people are not mindful and actually sit down and try to process what they're going through in order to experience the authentic positivity that is in situations. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with. As far as your dad, he brought up a lot of good points that it's hard to be positive when you're trying to just keep a roof over your head, food on the table. And I think that we have to lean a lot on our systems because the crazy thing is, if I was in a motivational space for a long time, and I think as a motivational speaker, a lot of times we put the onus on the individual to change their life. That if you're not successful, it's all your fault. And that's not true at all. Like there's systems that have been put into place to oppress people, to hold them down. So I think it shouldn't be, oh, if you're not successful, it's your fault. But there's things that are in your control that you can attend to and do your best while collectively we fight against those systems in order to help people rise. But if you just wake up every day and focus on the negative, what is the point of living anymore? Because it's just like you're just suffering all the time when there's much more to life, but it's all dependent upon what you decide to focus on and what to be mindful about.
And you're proof positive to me because you have had plenty of situations. I know of, I'm sure, just a small few
Right.
that would give you the right to be a little pessimistic, to be question the world a little bit. So where do you think this came from?
Because I have the understanding that nothing in life is permanent. The good times are not permanent, so you got to be able to enjoy it and savor it. And the bad times are not permanent, so you just have to be able to persevere through it. I think a lot of times people get caught up in the thinking trap that things won't get better, that whatever situation they're in is permanent, and no matter what they do is outside of their control to change. But the moment that they're able to switch the way that they explain negative events to themselves, when they're able to have a more positive outlook on life, to just say, you know what, I just need to endure and survive this storm that I'm in right now. And one day it will clear up. That's the mindset that I've always had, whether it was me battling injuries, trying to make it to the NFL, or Leah battling cancer, or even when me and my wife were struggling early on in our marriage. We had the belief that if we put in the work, we're intentional, we're deliberate, we try to find the good things in the bad places, that one day we'll be able to overcome.
Now, what do you think about this? I like to think, for me, when is now means we're living in the present. So in the present, the situation may not be perfect.
Right.
I might be, like you say, not in the strongest place with my spouse, right? But when is now to me does not mean wait, like life life starts when me and my spouse get it together, or sort of wait, that even that struggle, that is also to be savored. It's not to be endured. Does that make sense?
No, because I definitely get what you're saying as far as saving it, because there's lessons, there's purpose in people's pain. And sometimes we're so quick to try to hurry up and get out of the storm that we're missing the message in the storm. So then we come out of the storm the same person we went into the storm as, when that's basically wasting adversity. Like I tell people all the time, because people will see me now from when I was in college and they're like, "Oh, Devon, you're not the same." And I'm like, you don't watch your daughter fight stage 4 cancer and you come out the same person. And if you do, you wasted that adversity. Like it completely changed my life. It completely changed the way that I attack my day, my outlook on life. Like for me, when I hear when is now, it's like tomorrow's not guaranteed. Like my daughter was literally fighting for a year and a half to grow up, to turn 5, to turn 6, to experience elementary school, middle school, high school. And it wasn't guaranteed. So we had to live every single moment that she was here on this earth, because we couldn't wait to enjoy life when she was declared cancer free, because that might not ever happen. So why are we putting off something as if the future is guaranteed when the present is all we have? And how do you make the most of the present each day so that the future becomes what you always wanted it to be? Because I believe that everything has to start within your mind first. Like you have to picture it. You have to live it in your mind for, like, when, to give you an example, like in college, I became an All-American. I became the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. I got drafted 53rd overall in the NFL draft. But I didn't become an All-American when the coaches or the media voted that I was an All-American. I became an All-American in my mind first, and I started to exude the habits that an All-American would have, as far as the way I worked out, the way I studied film, the way I approached practice, the way I played in the game. And because I became an All-American in my mind first, then I received that outcome later on in the season. But I had to become it in my mind first. Because once you're able to visualize yourself living out that type of life, you can reverse engineer the whole process and understand the little steps that you can do in the present that'll get you to the future that you want for yourself.
There's a saying, I'm going to get the saying all wrong, but it's something like, for you, it might say, if you think you're an All-American or if you think you're not an All-American, either way, you're right.
Yeah. No, I know that saying. And I honestly think it's true, because if you're waiting for somebody to come put the title on you, because I think that's what a lot of people do. A lot of us are suffering from imposter syndrome. We don't know our value. We don't know our purpose. So we sit back and we allow people to come into our lives and tell us who we are and what we're capable of doing. And I had to make sure in that dorm room that I defined who I was before I allowed anybody else to do it, because an outsider looking in would have looked at me as damaged goods, because my freshman year, tore my ACL, my MCL. My second year, I broke my leg. So it's like anytime you face these major injuries in college and sports, people give up on you. And I started to notice that around me. So I had to redefine who I was for me, so that moving forward, I wouldn't let somebody else put their titles on me or their beliefs.
That was powerful what you said about Leah. And I think Shakespeare said, there's no good or bad, thinking makes it so, right? So you had your daughter for those days, and perhaps your daughter wasn't in the condition of maybe someone else's daughter, but it was your daughter, and you had her, and you were present, and you were with her, and you were loving each other. You had her. Yeah. And so you can dwell on what you don't have, or you can definitely dwell on what you do have.
Yeah. And the way I always looked at it at first, whenever you get hit with that initial shock, it's like you don't really care what else is going on around you. You're not trying to compare. You're not trying to be grateful. It's just like It sucks when you go through that. And there's not much positive emotions that you experience. But as the initial shock wears off, because whether we experience something good in life or we experience something bad, we all adjust to it through adaptation. That's just the way that we are. Like, we think that we can't get through something when it initially happens, then a couple months passes, like, all right, I can do this. Or even if you win the lottery, the high that you got off of winning the lottery is going to subside eventually. So are you able to make it through that up until it goes back down? And for me, when I experienced that negative downward spiral of emotions when Leah was first diagnosed with cancer, it was hard for me. I didn't care about what other families were going through. It was all about me and my family and my daughter. But as I came out of it, I realized that, damn, like, yeah, Leah's sitting here. She's diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. She has a 50% chance of surviving. But there was another family who got diagnosed and their child has inoperable cancer. They have terminal cancer. They don't have a chance to actually fight this. So it's like when I sat back and thought about it, yeah, we're in a messed up position, but somebody right now is in a hospital room praying that they was in our position. They was praying that their child had a 50% chance of surviving. So yeah, I'm in my right to complain about it, but understand that what you going through is somebody else's blessing. So don't sit there and cry about it. Like, find a way to come out of this better, whether it's your family coming out, like Leah overcoming this battle, or you actually make a difference in the childhood cancer community. And you use your platform in order to raise awareness and raise money for other people that's going through this. So something good was going to come out of this, whether Leah was going to survive or we was going to raise hell for the childhood cancer community. And we were blessed enough to be able to do both.
So were you always like this, Devon? Like, or did Leah teach you this, or were you like this in the dorm room, or as a 5-year-old running around?
Now, I've always been like this. I feel like Leah's battle with cancer revealed it to everybody, to the nation, to the world. But I feel like every struggle that I had been through up until Leah's diagnosis really prepared me for that. Whereas whether it was my parents getting divorced when I was in the 3rd grade and me having to navigate through that, me growing up in an environment where, I was just surrounded by drugs and violence, so overcoming my first major injury in 9th grade, it was just like when I broke my leg, it was just like every single thing was preparing me and helping me develop myself and my willpower and my hunger and my resilience, so that when I was faced with the ultimate challenge of Leah battling cancer, all I had to do was take the same principles that I used to overcome other challenges in order to navigate her battling cancer.
Another thing you said to us once was that in other situations, you had been valued more for your abilities, your physical abilities, and not necessarily the impact you can make your mind.
Yeah, because like I mentioned earlier, growing up in an environment that I grew up in, nobody values intellect. You look up to the dope boys, you look up to the athletes, you look up to the rappers. And, me growing up in poverty, I know everybody in my neighborhood used to have the saying, live fast, die young, because most people didn't think that they was going to make it to 18. And the way that we were struggling, it was like, my life must not have no value and nobody coming to save us. Like, it just is what it is. This is our life. When I got good at football, it was like, now all of a sudden, white guys and everything, they're not scared to come into the hood now. They come into my house. They sitting down at my table. They trying to make sure we got food, we got money, whatever we need. Y'all are basically begging me to come to your university. And it was like, damn, like, how one moment I feel like my life don't have no value. Nobody cares about the struggles that I'm going through. And then now y'all are flying into my school, into my house every single day. Y'all bringing me pizza to my job when I was working at Finish Line. So from that moment, I realized that as long as I was good playing football, then my life had value. And
Mm.
that's where I attached my value to. So then when I had to walk away from football after Leah was battling cancer and me dealing with my injuries, it's like, yo, where do I fit in now?
Mm.
Because people only praised me for the way that I had used my body physically on the football field. But now my body has taken me as far as it can take me. Now I got to rely on my mind. And when I had reached out to our director, Leona, um, before I even applied to the program, because I just wanted to know what it was all about. And me and her had an hour-long conversation. And when we got off that call, she was like, you should apply to this program because you sound like a mapster. And that was the first time anybody has spoke to me like that, as far as my intellect. And that gave me the confidence to go into that program and really just show up and be my authentic self.
And that program was hard.
It's hard as hell. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Man, that first week, because like I said, I never really took education serious. When I retired from the NFL, I went back and I got my MBA at the University of Houston downtown because, number one, I had to prove to myself that I could handle a graduate program, right? Like my ultimate goal was to go to Penn, but I couldn't go in there with the 2.0 that I had in undergrad. Like I had to show them I wasn't the same person coming out of undergrad that I am now. So I went to University of Houston downtown, got my MBA, and then I applied for the MAP program. But the first week or the first DL where we had to do our first theory paper, and I was struggling because I had a golf tournament that weekend too. And I'm writing the paper and it's just not writing. It's just not, for some reason, it's not coming out on the paper the way that I wanted it to be. And I called my wife and I'm just like, you know what? I think I'm done. I'm like, what's the point of me doing this? Like, yeah, I was like, I can go continue to speak and nobody's asking me, do I have my master's in applied positive psychology? I don't need this. But I was like, eventually I slept on it and I was like, nah, man, like you started this, you got to complete it. Like, regardless of how it's going to go, you put yourself out there to do it. So go ahead and finish the job because now I have 2 daughters and I have a wife. Y'all are watching me. I'm setting the example for you. So if I give up just because things get harder because I'm in an uncomfortable position in my life, then that's sending my daughters the message that it's okay to give up just because things are uncomfortable or because things are tough. And I ended up completing the paper. And when I got my first A, I was like, I can do this. I'm just being too hard on myself right now. Like, I'm here for a reason. Show up every single day and just give it the best that you have and just see how it goes. But that initial theory paper almost made me give up.
Devon, you talk about the initial theory paper. When we were given that like clump of homework that was due, because there was 4 classes and in each class had different homework with different dates. And I couldn't even organize in my brain. I couldn't even like put on a linear piece of paper like what was due. I was so confused from scratch. I was just confused. I didn't know what was due, let alone doing a paper. But then our cohort brother, Mark, he laid that all out for us. And then that's when I was like, all right, I can see this. I can do this. But I mean, on an Excel sheet, it was like this thick of stuff that was due each learning.
Each DL. Yeah, it was crazy, but I think that Mark exemplified what it means by other people matter because he was able to put that thing together for all of us to be able to follow along with. But it was definitely one of the most challenging programs I've ever been through. Whether we're talking about academics, sports, or whatever, it took a lot from you in order to complete that program.
And I think what's important, what I get most out of this is like, for me, looking at you, like I said, you were always the star pupil, right? Like everybody wanted to hear you speak. You was always on top of all your game. You was there every day, alert, engaged, present.
Yeah.
And to hear that, you say, like, I almost threw in the towel. Like, I questioned if I needed this, if I could do this. That just makes me think about, like, every other person, man, woman, child, human that is in front of us in a car, next to us at Starbucks, walking down the street, what they got going inside, despite how they present outside.
Right. No, it's true, because I think that a lot of times we think that people who are successful, people who are resilient, people who are strong and overcome things never have negative thoughts, which is not true. You just learn how to process your negative thoughts. I tell people all the
That's
time,
right.
I allow myself to have weak moments, but I don't allow it to turn into a weak mindset. If I'm having a couple of days where it's just like, yo, I don't feel like doing nothing, that my mind is racing, I'm going through a, anxiety or episodic depression or something, I allow myself to experience that. I don't ruminate on it, and I find a way to reframe whatever the situation is that I'm going through, and I come out on top of that. And I try to speak a lot
Mhm.
about the struggles that I go through, because I don't want other people to think that they're not capable of doing the same thing, because we live in a society now with social media where
Mhm.
everybody just seems like their life is together, like everything is
Mhm.
perfect, like they just have life figured out. So when you on the sidelines and you looking at everybody else, you think to yourself, man, my life is not worth living because I'm not living like them. Why am I
Mhm.
struggling so hard when their life looks like it's just so easy? But I think that if we all have the courage to be more vulnerable and really talk about our struggles, a lot more people will be able to overcome what they're going through, because they'll realize that they're not the only ones that's going through it.
I think that's immensely important. I appreciate you for always being so honest. So I know that one of your initiatives is the optimistic child.
Yeah.
And I think you're probably one of the best people to speak on that. Uh, can you talk a little bit about, like, some tools? You're talking about rumination, growth mindset. Um, can you give us some quick tips? Something
Yeah.
that we can do when we feel ourselves, um, you know, sliding down that slippery slope?
Yeah. So for me, the reason why I did the optimistic child is because that was the focus of my capstone. So when I had first went into the MAP program, I wanted to create interventions to increase marital satisfaction amongst bereaved parents, parents who lost their child. But as
Mm,
we started to do our homework partners in the program, I decided to work with my daughter and teach her the different concepts of positive psychology. And then it just started to hit me when we started to learn about neuroplasticity and how important adolescence is in order to create, habits, effective habits, so that kids can grow up and be flourishing adults. And I started to read a little bit more about what causes anxiety and depression amongst adolescents, youth, and adults. And I realized that my daughter was at risk for
mm,
anxiety, depression, or mental health issues because of what she went through with her battle with cancer. And I was like, oh, I didn't know about this before. And not only is it Leah that's going through this because she's dealt with illnesses, but people who are growing up in poverty, kids who um, parents had divorced when they was younger, like everything that really related to my life. And I was like, you know what? This is what I want to focus on. Because although I've been able to have a lot of success in life, it means nothing if I can't go back and help other people become successful. And my passion has always been kids. So I developed something called a RISE workshop, a RISE curriculum, which stands for um, resilience, intelligence, character strengths, and executive function. And now I work with a lot of parents. I work with schools. And of course, I work with my daughter to teach her these key principles of positive psychology to help children rise above stressful life events in order to live the lives that they want for themselves. So the first thing that I put out to the public was the optimistic child, because I believe that everything starts with our mindset. Um, because a lot of times people, I think that they believe that adversity causes us to feel certain ways, whether it be sadness or depression, anxiety, whatever the case may be. But it's really not the adversity or the challenge we're going through, but it's what we believe that challenge or adversity means about us or our future. In the moment that we're able to, like I said, attend to what we're going through, attend to our thoughts, and we're able to process, okay, I just went through this challenge. Like, all right, I like for my daughter, for instance, I had put her into advanced math classes this year because I wanted her to be challenged because she was getting A's and B's in her other math classes. And I was just like, this is not really challenging her. So the first test that she went through, she ended up getting a C in it in her advanced math. And she got frustrated. She started to tell me like, I'm not a math person. Like, I don't think I should be in advanced math. And I was like, all right, well, let's just go over what happened in class. So she starts with the adversity. She fails her test. And I'm like, okay, notice how when you failed the test, you automatically started to believe that you're not a math person, that you shouldn't be in advanced math. And now you want to drop the class because you're embarrassed that you failed the class, where we can look at you failing that math test and be like, all right, well, how much time did you actually put in studying for this math test? Oh, I studied for about 2 hours. Then it's like, okay, well, maybe this is a result of the lack of effort you put in to actually pass the test rather than what you're actually capable of doing. So by you reframing that, it's not that you're not a math person, you just failed that one math test. And if you come back to work harder the next time, then your outcomes can be different. So that's exactly what she did. The next math test, she started to study an hour a day leading up to it, and she got a B+ on it. So it was really about trying to get her to reframe her beliefs about what that challenge or adversity meant in the math class, and it produced a positive outcome for her. So the first thing anybody has to do when they're going through any type of challenge in their life is just try to reframe it in a way that allows them to create the outcome that they want for themselves.
And she changed her thinking from it being permanent, I'm not good at math, like that's her lifestyle, to I didn't do well this time, to a more temporary.
Right. Temporary.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And also giving her the language. Like, in what any other situation do parents have this language to be able to talk to their kids so they can process these feelings?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
that's amazing.
Because I think I once heard somebody say that like having a child is allowing your heart to walk outside your body and expecting it to never get hurt. And I think that parents, we do everything in our power to prevent our children from suffering. But all suffering is not bad suffering. Like sometimes we have to suffer in order to grow. So of course you want to be able to prevent your child from getting sick. You want to help them as much as possible to succeed in school. But we have to allow them to experience failures in their life because that is what produces resilience. We don't need to protect them from every challenge. We need to teach them how to think about the challenges that they're facing, because one day we're not going to be here. One day I'm not going to be here. Like I just said, that nothing in life is permanent. So I'm not going to always be able to protect my children. So what can I leave with them that they can hold on to when I'm no longer here? When my daughter's going through some type of struggle and she can't pick up the phone and call dad anymore. What did my dad tell me? How to process this challenge what I'm going through? How should I think about this? What should I believe about myself? I think that's the key to parenting, is providing them with the tools to overcome struggles, not always protecting them from having to go through struggles.
I mean, those keys are for adults too. I want to talk to you about, so yesterday we lost Twitch.
Yep.
He was a DJ. He was a father. He was a son. He was a brother, a husband. We don't know much about the circumstances. It's just the day later.
Yeah.
But It's another human being gone. And I can't help but to think that if we can figure out together how to have conversations about how we feel and how the outside may not match the inside, and that's okay. Yeah. We can still work this out. That would be it. Yeah. Tell me what your thoughts on it. I'm still processing it, as I'm sure you are, but I would like to hear.
It's tough because I knew Twitch. He's a really solid guy. And he lit up any room that he was in with his positivity and his personality. So when I woke up the other morning and I saw that, I was like, I don't know, it hit me. It hit me hard because I'm like, damn, not him. Like, not Twitch, not like Mr. Positive. And it was just crazy because it made you realize that depression does not have a look. You can't look at somebody and tell what they're going through internally. And it just made it that more important how you got to check on your friends and family that you think are the strong ones. Because it may just be an exterior that they're presenting and not really what they're going through internally. And it's just, I don't know, like you said, we don't know much about what he was going through, but just to see that a couple of days ago, they celebrated 9 years of marriage. The other day they was dancing, celebrating Christmas or getting ready for Christmas. And it's just like, man, how do you get to this point? Like, what was going through his mind? Because like, even as a dad, it's like he has 3 babies, got 3 kids. So something he was going through had a stronger hold on him than his kids. Because here's the thing, when you talk about suicidal ideations, because I've seen a lot of people write about this on social media, and it's like, yo, how can you do that? You have 3 kids, like Christmas is never going to be the same for them, but you have to realize that the way that you're looking at is not the same way that that person is looking at. Because most people who commit suicide do it because they feel like they're a burden on people. So when you think that they're being selfish and they're taking their own lives and leaving other people to hurt, they believe that they're helping other people because they're no longer a burden for them. And this is what being in that negative mindset will do to you, where it will have you thinking things like that. And if we, especially as men, are able to open up and just be like, yo, right now, I need help. That I'm going through some things and I really don't know how to process it. But society doesn't really create that safe space for men to really show up and say that. Because we're supposed to be strong. We're supposed to be the rock. We're not supposed to show people what we're going through. And I used to think that too. But I got to a point and I sat down and I told my wife, I was like, yo, I can't do this anymore. Like, I get I'm the leader of the household, but sometimes a leader needs to be able to lean on people. So whatever I'm going through mentally, I'm going to come to you and talk about it. And it's not for me, like, for you to panic, but it's just for me to be able to let this go, because the more we hold it on the inside, the more it eats at us, the more it takes over us. But the moment you're able to release it, then I think you take your power back. And I learned how to start doing that when Leah was battling cancer, where it was just like, I felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders. And instead of just bottling it up, I talked to my wife and I was able to get the guidance and the counsel from her that I needed. And I think that if we, like I said, if us as men show up in the world and really talk about our struggles, because it's not easy navigating this world, that we can help each other overcome a lot of the trauma and the stress that were under, but it's just sad. It's just sad. Like I don't even know what to say about Twitch, because I don't think anybody was expecting this.
Do you think that um, people like Twitch, who is seen in an optimized positive light, or
Yeah.
yourself who preaches positive psychology, or me who everyone think is always happy, do you think
Right.
there's extra pressure? Like when we are feeling down or going through episodic depression, which I do, uh,
Yeah.
I have a couple days, I'm much like you, I'll sit in it and I'll
Right.
allow it. Do you think that people like that feel extra pressure not to feel that? Or do you know what I mean? Like it's almost like practice what you preach. What you mean? You're feeling this way. You said everything's supposed to be
Yeah.
happy. Everything's supposed to be positive. Do you think there's extra burden on people that are seen as so positive?
Yeah, and then I think that social media does that to people,
Mm-hmm.
where we have to put out the same content that we're putting out. If I'm a positive person and people love my positivity, I can't talk about me battling
Mm-hmm.
depression or me going through something, because they're gonna look at me and be like, "Yo, I'm gaining inspiration from you. You're not supposed to be like this." But for me, man, the best thing I did for myself is just make the decision that I'm going to show up in the world authentically me. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not putting on a filter to my life. I'm not doing things to make
Mm-hmm.
other people feel good. That I'm going to express who I truly am and what I'm going through. Because I do believe that experiencing the negative is being positive. I don't know why people think it's different. Like the fact that I'm able to still feel sadness, hurt, or pain means that I'm not numb to life. Too many people are numb to life where they don't even allow themselves to experience those emotions because they've been hurt so much that they think that experiencing negativity is a bad thing. Imagine if I got the news that Leah had cancer and I just sat there with a smile on my face. There's nothing positive about that. That's fake. But the fact that I broke down and cried, the fact that I experienced anxiety and depression is a response that you would expect from somebody who gets delivered that type of news. So it's a positive thing that I experienced that. And then once I allowed myself to process those emotions, then I was able to authentically experience the positive emotions. But if you don't allow yourself to work through the negative, anything that you try to do as far as practicing gratefulness is not going to feel real. It's not going to be genuine. It's not going to have the impact on your life that it can possibly have. So I do think that people feel pressured to put out this facade or to put out this image if they've always been Mr. Positive or Miss Positive, but we have to find a way to get out of that and allow people to show up authentically themselves without judgment.
So, Devon, you have been one of my favorite interviews thus far. Now, I haven't done that many, but you were
I'll take it.
fantastic. uh, if people want more of you, tell us about your podcast where you could get unlimited Devon Still.
Yeah, so me and my wife, we have a podcast. We have one of the top marriage podcasts called Real Relationships, where we basically bring the real back to relationships. Like I said, one of my character strengths is authenticity, honesty. So we wanted to be able to create a platform where it's like, no, we're not that power couple on social media that we're only taking pictures when we're happy or when we're doing something fun. But we're going to talk about the real struggles of marriage to get other people to see that, yo, you're not the only one going through this. So don't give up on your marriage because you're trying to compare it to somebody else's that's not really real. This, these are the struggles, and this is how we're working through it. These are the evidence-based interventions that increase marital or relationship satisfaction. And this is how we've been able to overcome the struggles that we've been through. So if anybody wants that real authenticity, you want to talk about not only the struggles of marriage, but the blessings of marriage, the blessings of finding your partner and becoming one, um, and just creating a life for yourself. Like this is what we try to do on our podcast is just provide people with the tools in order to create relationships that flourish.
With some things that y'all talked about.
Phew. We done talked about everything. We done talked about what it was like experiencing miscarriages, being a blended family, cheating, just everything. Like every single topic that you can think about is like we talk about the real stuff, things that people are really dealing with in their lives right now.
So, Devon, we are sadly at the end. We can get more information about Devon. We'll put it up, your website, how they can find the information on Optimistic Child, your workshops, your ebooks, your podcast. You're a speaker for hire. I'm sure super duper expensive, as you should be. And you are a University of Pennsylvania assistant instructor in this terrifically difficult program that we both graduated from. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
How did it feel? Like, one last question. How did it feel to be sitting in those classes again? But as an instructor?
It feels good being on the other side. I can tell you that much. But when I was asked to be an assistant instructor, it completely blew my mind because, like I said, I suffered so much from imposter syndrome before we started the program. And like I said, the first week, me feeling like I wanted to give up, but then sticking it out. And then now to be told I added that much value that they wanted me to come back on the other side and just be able to help out other students that's going through it. It was mind blowing to me. And it's a really cool experience because now I think for me, when I listen to how much the students are struggling, it's like, all right, I was supposed to struggle this bad because now I'm reading their journals and stuff. And it's like, yo, everybody's experiencing what I was experiencing at that time. So it's like, you do give yourself more credit for making it through that program because it's tough. But then you also get to see other people's perspectives of the concepts that we learn. So it's like you're continuously growing because everything has a shelf life. Like we graduated last year and science is always changing. There's always new developments. So being a part of that program, you're able to keep up with the science to still create effective interventions that really have an impact on people's lives.
Anything else you want to add, Devon?
I have a question for you. I'm the interviewer now. Yes.
Hit me.
So like I asked you before, what does a production whisperer do?
Oh, what a production whisperer does. Yes. I can't believe you remembered that question after the whole journey you and I have just been through.
Yeah.
So a production whisperer is a term that I made up. And that is one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is a production wolf, right? And I consider myself both. And it's just the intensity of the situation. So a production whisperer would be on set and they can make sure that the set is respectful, enabling, valuing, making sure people matter, people feel heard, people are trusted, and the relationships are collaborative, thus creating a nice set where everyone contributes, right? Okay, sometimes it's not always like that. I mean, have you ever been on a set? Sometimes it can be it's like any other sort of big money, high pressure situation. Sometimes it can be a very zero-sum game. When people make mistakes, instead of quietly taking them aside and enabling them, you might publicly embarrass them or devalue them or speak in a way that depletes them. That can be how sets are run, depending on leadership. So I'm a production whisperer. So I like to think that I bring those positive psychology theories to set that allows everyone to create smoothly. And then a production wolf, which is on the other side, that's when they have to call me in because a set has gone bad. Like the director is about to walk, or the studio is going to pull financing, or the lead actor is throwing a fit. Then call in the wolf I will get everything back on track
Right.
and up and running, and we will get this film to the finish line.
Oh
So
man,
that's
cool.
what I'm trying to do. That's what I am doing, bringing these theories to Hollywood.
When's your next film? I want to be able to see you in action. I want to see you when you got to be the whisperer and the wolf.
Well, hopefully my productions, hopefully you always want to stay in whisperer mode,
Right.
That means you're avoiding any problems. We're filming something with Kelly Kali, who is also one of my guests we're filming in March, April, May. We're filming in May in New York.
Okay.
You are more than welcome to come up, and I could probably find you a role.
Yeah, throw me in there. I'll definitely do it. I would definitely do it.
I'll find you a role. We're very excited about this film coming up. Kelly is great. She did I'm Fine, Thanks for Asking, and then she got scooped up immediately, and she did a Hulu 20th film, and then a BET MPI film, and then this is going to be our fourth film in 18 months. It's quite spectacular. She's amazing. Wow. And she's definitely a transformational leader. She goes in and she talks to everybody. Even the background, she learns their names, and she's a transformational leader, opposed to a lot of people in Hollywood act on a more transactional vibe. Yeah.
Well, let me know when you're in New York. I would definitely come out there.
Oh, that would be an honor, Devon. Yes, we would love to have you. All right, Devon Still. NFL, Devon Still, NFL superstar, speaker, positive psychology practitioner. He has books, he has podcasts, he has workshops. Please check him out. Yes, like I said, you're honestly food for the soul today. It just took me back to last year. I miss you a lot.
I miss y'all too. I miss you too. We got to get together more and continue to make an impact. Like I said, I'm glad that you decided to do this, because a lot of people talk about making an impact. A lot of people talk about doing things, but you actually went out there and did it. So I'm definitely proud of you, and I can't wait to see the impact that this podcast has in the world.
Thank you, Devon. So I really enjoyed that conversation with Devon. I think my favorite part was when he talked about gratitude. And anytime you think about hearing a doctor say that your daughter has a 50-50 chance of survival, the fact that you can latch on to that 50% chance of survival and understand that there are parents that wish that they had a 50% chance of survival. To me, that is the epitome of gratitude. And I want to thank Devon for sharing, some of those extremely personal, poignant moments with us. I also really appreciated his honesty and vulnerability when talked about imposter syndrome and how someone, this big, strong, brilliant man, could ever experience imposter syndrome. And it helps the rest of us to understand that it's natural. So thank you, Devon, for your honesty and vulnerability. And thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. You can subscribe to the podcast anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And you can tell your friends to listen wherever they listen to their podcasts. If you follow on social media, When Is Now Podcast, we're on TikTok, we're on Twitter and IG. And I want to thank my podcast producer, Jared Redding, and I want to thank the wonderful Contavious Jones for his music. So thank you guys, and I'll see you next time.